Howdy, Toku students. Glad to be back. I recently took my computer to a repair shop and was without it for about a week, which is why I wasn't able to post a class for a while. Since we've gone so long without a video, I say we just jump in and start digesting as much information as we can. Here we go! Today, we're covering a Cockroach Kaijin from episode 55 of the original Kamen Rider, who has the ability to cause people to rapidly age, namely Cockroach Man. There's a good chance he was created by female writer Mari Takizawa, who wrote his debut episode. For the brief amount of time he spent as a human in the episode, he was played by Shingo Hiramatsu, and then, after becoming a shocker cyborg, his suit actor was Masaru Okada, and his voice was supplied by Kin Mineke. From what I can tell, EX Productions, the company of Masao Yagi who designed the first Gamera suit, took care of modeling the Kaijin's costume, along with all the other monsters from the original Kamen Rider. As is usual for these forgotten Kaijin, behind-the-scenes information on Cockroach Man is very limited, but I think we're going to have a lot of fun in this upcoming In-Universe History section, which should make up for it. And we're approaching that time now, so let the episode analysis begin. Even before he became a shocker Kaijin, Cockroach Man wasn't exactly the most virtuous person on the planet. Unless scamming people in an apartment complex by selling them fake roach pesticides actually involves a secret virtue I'm not aware of. Charitable or not, his business practices would be cut short one day, because Shocker was planning to unleash a bunch of roaches infected with a bacteria that would cause the population to rapidly age and die, and they didn't like the idea of someone selling pesticides that could kill the bugs, so they chased and captured him and his business partner. This is ironic because these two scammers weren't actually selling a bug spray that worked, so I guess they were getting what they deserved for lying about the effectiveness of their product. Shocker decided to modify both men into Cockroach Men as a punishment, beginning with this guy, who was transformed into a Kaijin nearly instantly, and began making this sound. As for his business partner, Shocker ended up deciding to force him to sell balloons filled with the aging bacteria in front of the same apartment complex instead, so he didn't end up suffering the same fate as the other scammer, and that's why we only have one Cockroach Man to cover for this episode. Once the balloon salesman was identified as one of the scammers from the day before, Cockroach Man showed himself and kidnapped several kids. It didn't take long for Takeshi Hongo to locate the Bug Kaijin's car though, and unfortunately for the Shocker monster, the road they were on came to a dead end, so he and his combat men cronies had to get out of the car and battle Hongo, who began beating them up with ease. Meanwhile, Cockroach Man's former accomplice tried to escape amidst the chaos, but foolishly announced his departure, allowing Cockroach Man to leap over and stop him, and he fired some of Shocker's aging bacteria from his mouth onto his old friend. He then went back over to the car to confront Takeshi Hongo, and tried hitting him with the bacteria as well, but the hero was able to block the attack by using a combat man as a shield. Hongo then leapt onto the car, did his Henshin pose for Cockroach Man's enjoyment, and transformed into Kamen Rider. Cockroach Man was kind of useless for the next few scenes, and let Kamen Rider beat up some more combat men as Taki rescued the kids. The Shocker monster eventually kicked Kamen Rider a few times, but he was completely shown up by a mere combat man, who got behind the wheel of the car and tried to run the rider over, and was even able to hurt his legs somewhat. Now that's commitment. You should learn from this guy, Cockroach Man. The show cut away from the fight after this, and the next time Cockroach Man was shown, he was back in the Shocker hideout being given the plan for Operation Ad Balloon, which would involve filling an advertising balloon with the aging bacteria. No info about how that fight he was having with Kamen Rider just ended, but don't worry, the two of them will be back at it soon. Cockroach Man was ordered to take out Hongo and Taki before going through with Operation Ad Balloon, so he and some combat men headed over to the room where Taki, who kind of looked like he was dressed up as a U-Tom, was taking care of the now very old scammer and ambushed him, turning him into an old man as well. They then dropped the scammer out of the window and fled moments before Hongo entered the room with what he thought could be an antidote to the aging. It proved to be a completely effective medicine that restored whoever ingested it to their correct age, so Hongo was able to heal Taki and the scammer, who didn't seem to be in any worse shape despite being thrown out of a window. The scammer, who'd turned over a new leaf, told them about Operation Ad Balloon, which I guess they'd discussed when he'd been around as well. So Hongo went off to the building Shocker was planning to launch the balloon from, while Taki worked on getting the aging antidote mass-produced. Cockroach Man, meanwhile, watched as the balloon that could lead to the quick death of humanity, or at least a sizable chunk of humanity, was raised up into the air. He whipped out a knife and prepared to cut it loose so it could rise up and then detonate in the air, but became momentarily distracted by a voice who shouted, "Wait!" After spotting Kamen Rider, Cockroach Man tried to quickly cut the balloon's rope, but the rider leapt down and kicked the knife away, and began beating up the bug's forces. Again, Cockroach Man tried to hit the rider with his bacteria, but Hongo was able to escape before he could be turned into an old cyborg man yet again, and continued to beat up all the combat men, as the Kaijin watched, for some reason remaining motionless. Only when Hongo jumped back down to his level did the monster go back to trying to cut the balloon's rope, and this time the deadly weapon was able to make liftoff. So, Kamen Rider just sort of flew up and grabbed it, and continued to battle while holding on to the giant floating orb, before passing it off to Taki, who'd just arrived as well. Cockroach Man ran up to Hongo's sidekick and tried to get him to let go of the balloon by using his knife and bacteria breath, but his attacks kept missing. He finally was able to corner Taki on a large fence, but Kamen Rider leapt over and confronted him, which led to the Kaijin taking his eyes off of Taki. Kamen Rider's sidekick leapt down and kicked the monster, providing his cyborg friend with an opening to flatten the cockroach. The hero bounded off a wall and performed a rider reversal kick, which sent Cockroach Man flying off the building and onto the pavement below. As the Kaijin prepared to explode, as most Kaijin do after getting hit by a rider kick, for some reason he reverted back to his human appearance, and then became this thing. And went up in flames. And that's how it ended for Cockroach Man. That's not all the in-universe history we have to cover, though. The Kaijin got to return one more time, at least that I know of. Maybe there's another instance, but he came back just once more, as far as I know, in this movie, with his voice provided by Osamu Ichikawa. This time around, he teamed up with some revived Kaijin and the new shocker monster Kamakiri Kid. After briefly helping his fellow shocker monsters battle Kamen Rider, well, kind of helping, Kamen Rider grabbed the bug and forced him to give away the location of one of Shocker's bases, cementing his status in my head as a pretty weak Kaijin. Kamakiri Kid, mad at Cockroach Man for spilling the beans, hit him with a powerful blast, which moments later caused the upset Kaijin to explode. Kamakiri Kid killing Cockroach Man apparently wasn't in the script, but maybe during filming they thought it would make their new Kaijin look stronger or something, leading to the scene's late addition. Next, we need to cover minor appearances. There is actually only one that I know of. He was featured in the manga Kamen Rider SD Mighty Riders, and tried to make food rot, but that's all I know of. Please leave a comment if you are aware of more. With this few moments in the spotlight, I think this bug has earned a spot in the Forgotten Monsters Hall of Fame, don't you? I was surprised to see that this monster actually has some merchandise representation. On eBay, I spotted a Gashapon figure, and a really rare and expensive Popey figure and Metacom figure. If you must allow a cockroach into your home, I recommend sticking with one of these figures. The real deal isn't too pleasant.
Why does it look and sound like something's happening to you, Professor?
Nonsense, whippersnapper. Anyway, thanks for tuning in today, students. Don't forget to like, comment, and of course subscribe. That 25K sub milestone is getting really close. And check out my merch store where you can get some awesome Toku Professor products I'm sure all you young'uns will enjoy. There's one of those newfangled links in the description of this video.
I think your suspicions are correct, Kashimu-kun.
This is real bad.
Now, where was I? Oh yeah. Get off my porch, kids! Get!
But we aren't even on a porch!
Oh. Sorry about that. Guess I must have left my spectacles back at home on my rocking chair.
I think he must have gotten Cockroach Man's bacteria on him somehow.
What's that about a soy cow? Sorry, bud, but these hearing aids aren't working so good.
Guess we'll have to stop at the pharmacy for that antidote he talked about during class. Boy, something unexpected always seems to happen when you teach us Toku stuff, Professor.
Yep, and dare I say, it never gets old.
Good one.